And it's also an honor to be here with another friend of mine. We got to know each other back when I was serving as governor of the state of Indiana. And he was the governor of Maine. I saw him lead this state with tenacity, with a cheerful pugilism that made an incredible difference in the life of Maine, past, present, and future. Join me in thanking your incredible former governor, Paul LePage. I'll tell you what, he was one of my favorite governors in America, and he just might be again. You know, it really is great to be with so many friends. But speaking of friends of mine, I was on the phone with a friend of mine last night. I told him I was headed to Maine, to the 2nd Congressional District, and I think he sounded just a little bit jealous. So allow me to bring greetings from a man who loves the people of Maine and has been fighting to keep the promises that he made to the people of this great state. I bring greetings from the 45th President of the United States of America, President Donald Trump. I heard that. I heard that, because I got to tell you, it's great to be with you all. It's great to be in Maine in this beautiful day here in New England. But I'm here for one reason and one reason only. And that is that Maine and America need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. It's on, Maine, and the road to victory runs right through northern Maine. Yeah, it really is great to be with all of you. If you got a seat out there, you can go ahead and take it if you'd like. I've been traveling all over the country. The president's traveling all over the country. He's out west today. I actually was in Utah about 10 days ago. We had a little debate in Salt Lake City with Kamala Harris. Some people think we did okay. Thank you. But you know, it was my great privilege to be on that stage talking about everything that we've accomplished over the last 4 years and what we can keep doing with 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. I mean, the truth is, 4 years ago, a movement was born. It was a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. Here in northern Maine, you believe we could be strong again. You believed we could be prosperous again. Northern Maine said yes to President Donald Trump in 2016, and I know northern Maine's going to say yes to 4 more years of President Donald Trump in 2020. It's because of what we've done. That's what I got to talk about. I mean, think about it. 4 years ago, we inherited a military that had been hollowed out by devastating budget cuts, an economy that was struggling to break out of the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. Terrorism was on the rise around the world, and we'd witnessed a steady assault on our most cherished values. But in our first 3 years, under this president's leadership, with our strong allies in the Congress of the United States, we rebuilt our military. We cut taxes. We rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, secured our border, supported law enforcement, and stood for life and liberty in the Constitution of the United States. And it all begins with providing for the common defense, doesn't it? It's amazing to think, when we took office after years of reckless budget cuts to our national defense, when Joe Biden was vice president, President Donald Trump went straight to work, and he signed the largest increase in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan. I mean, I have to tell you, as the proud father of a United States Marine and the father-in-law of a United States Navy pilot, I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside a president who cares so deeply about the men and women of our armed forces and their families. We've invested in our national defense at an unprecedented level, $2.5 trillion to make the strongest military in the history of the world stronger still. We're well on our way to a 350-ship Navy, many of which will be built at Bath Iron Works right here in Maine, because Bath built is best. I mean, the truth is, under this president's leadership, we're finally giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard the resources and support that they need to defend this nation and come home safe. And with that renewed American strength, we've taken the fight to radical Islamic terrorists on our terms, on their soil. And last year, at the direction of their commander-in-chief, our armed forces took down the last inch of territory under the black flag of ISIS, and our special forces took out their leader without one American casualty. And when American lives were threatened by the most dangerous terrorist in the world, President Donald Trump took action. Our military responded, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. So we've rebuilt our military. We've stood with our allies and stood up to our enemies. And in our first 3 years, again, I just have to tell you, it was the slowest economic recovery in nearly a century. President Trump kept the promises that he made to the people of Maine. We put an economic agenda into practice that created the strongest economy in the history of America. When Joe Biden was vice president, you remember, they tried to tax and spend and bail and regulate us back into a growing economy. But now, even now, in the midst of a global pandemic, Joe Biden wants to raise taxes by $4 trillion. Think about that. Joe Biden has said he wants to repeal all the Trump tax cuts on day one. That would mean your average family of four would see a $2,000 increase in their taxes every single year. President Trump, well, we cut taxes across the board, rolled back more federal red tape than any administration in history, fought for free and fair trade, unleashed American energy, and in just 3 years saw businesses large and small create 7 million good-paying jobs, including 18,000 jobs right here in the Pine Tree State. And wages were rising across the board. Governor LePage will back me up on this. Wages have been a stubborn indicator for more than a decade. I mean, we've seen lots of ups and downs in the economy, but wages were stuck in. I mean, during most of the time that Joe Biden was vice president, wages didn't even keep up with inflation. But because of the policies that you supported and this president advanced, we saw wages rising at their fastest pace in more than 10 years. And what meant the most to the president and me is wages were rising most rapidly for hard-working, blue-collar Americans. The forgotten men and women of America were forgotten no more. And when you talk about manufacturing, the choice could not be more clear as well. I mean, when Joe Biden was vice president, America actually lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. And remember 4 years ago, when the last president basically told the American people those jobs were never coming back? Remember his famous question? What magic wand do you have? Well, we didn't need a magic wand. We just needed President Donald Trump in the White House. 500,000 manufacturing jobs created in just 3 years. And it wasn't just about the tax cuts and rolling back regulation that made that manufacturing renaissance happen. It's because in President Donald Trump, we had a leader who fought for free and fair trade that put American jobs and American workers first. When we came into office, literally half of our international trade deficit, $500 billion, was with communist China. And for decades, Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China. He actually said that the rise of China was a positive development for America. And he scoffed at the notion that China was even a competitor of our country. And when communist China put a 30% tariff on Maine lobsters, this president took action. He said the era of economic surrender is over. We gave Maine's lobstermen $26 million in aid, and we stood up to China to buy more lobsters from Maine and more agricultural goods from America. Under President Donald Trump, the era of economic surrender is over. We're going to stand strong on China until they open their markets to what we make, to what we grow, to what we fish, and treat American intellectual property with the respect that every American deserves. And it hasn't just been about China. You all know this past summer, the European Union was saying that they weren't going to drop their tariffs on Maine lobster. So President Trump said, well, we're going to put tariffs on European cars. President Trump stood his ground. Europe's tariffs on Maine lobster are coming to an end. That's what we call the art of the deal. And it's remarkable to think that the Obama-Biden administration actually closed off 5,000 square miles of the Atlantic Ocean to our fishermen here in Maine. But when President Trump took office, we reversed the Obama-Biden policy. We opened up our coast for Maine fishermen once and for all. I mean, in President Donald Trump, you have someone that's going to be fighting every day for the next 4 years, just the way he's fought for the last 3.5 years. On the details, he's going to be in the fight to fight for American jobs and American workers. And closer to home, here just a couple of hours from the Canadian border, you all remember the impact of NAFTA on manufacturing in this country. You know, in the 25 years since NAFTA was signed into law, out where I come from in the heartland, we literally saw tens of thousands of factories shuttered and jobs moved south of the border. And all those years, while Joe Biden and his party often were critical of NAFTA, they never lifted a finger to reform it or fix it. But thanks to President Donald Trump, NAFTA is yesterday and the USMCA is here to stay. And it's a win for Maine and a win for American workers and farmers. It is. Now, y'all deserve to know that Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's running mate, was one of only 10 senators to vote against the USMCA. She said the USMCA didn't go far enough on climate change. Truth is, Kamala Harris put her radical agenda ahead of American jobs. Under President Trump, we're always going to put American jobs and American workers first. So men and women across Maine, look, we have a choice to make when it comes to this economy in the days ahead. As our nation is recovering from the worst global pandemic in 100 years, you got to ask yourself, you got to ask your neighbors and friends, who do you think is going to bring this economy all the way back and then some? A career politician who spent 47 years in Washington, D.C., raising taxes, stifling our economy under an avalanche of regulation and economic surrender? Or do you trust a proven job creator who will keep cutting taxes, rolling back regulation, and fighting for American jobs every single day? As the president said, it's a choice between a Trump recovery and a Biden depression. So Maine, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House to bring Maine and America all the way back. So we've stood for our national security. We fought for prosperity and American jobs. We stood for American energy and American workers. And every single day, President Donald Trump has stood for the rule of law. We've appointed more than 200 conservative judges to our federal courts at every level. And they are all men and women who will uphold all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, like the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And let me be real clear. President Donald Trump and I are not going to let big tech block the truth. We're not going to let big tech censor what Americans read or see or say in this election or ever. We've been defending all the freedoms enshrined in our Constitution, and we'll do it every day. Now, last month, we paused as a nation to rightly honor the life and service of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But when the memorials were over, President Trump fulfilled his constitutional duty when he nominated a brilliant, principled, conservative woman who loves the Constitution to the Supreme Court of the United States. He nominated Judge Amy Coney Barrett. I think America saw over the last week in those hearings the quality, the intellect, the caliber, and the temperament of Judge Amy Coney Barrett. And I'm a little bit biased because, you know, she's a Hoosier. But I think every American is going to be well served as her confirmation moves forward. Now, the President and I have been calling on Democrats to give Judge Barrett a respectful confirmation, but we had reason to be concerned. I mean, you all remember during her confirmation to the Court of Appeals a couple years ago, leading Democrats in Washington, D.C., and liberal elites around the country were attacking Judge Barrett because of her Christian faith. In fact, the leading Democrat on the Judiciary Committee said she was concerned about Judge Amy Coney Barrett 2 years ago because, speaking of her Catholic faith, she said, quote, "The dogma lives loudly within you." And Hollywood elites have already begun to criticize Judge Barrett and her faith again. Well, I got a message for the Democrats in Washington and their Hollywood friends. That dogma lives loudly in me. That dogma lives loudly in you. And the right to live and work and worship according to the dictates of our faith lives loudly in the Constitution of the United States of America. So the Senate's got a job to do. And after they discharge their duty to advise and consent, I'll make a prediction. We're going to fill that seat. Judge Amy Coney Barrett is going to be Justice Amy Coney Barrett. And speaking of the Supreme Court, you know, the people of Maine deserve to know. After 150 years, with 9 seats on the Supreme Court of the United States, leading Democrats in Washington are talking about packing the court. It's true. Thursday night during his town hall, Joe Biden said, "I'm open to considering it," when asked if he'd be willing to pack the court. Kamala Harris said during the Democrat primaries that she was, quote, "absolutely open to adding seats to the Supreme Court." And a couple of surrogates for their campaign just yesterday morning on the Sunday shows were saying it outright. Now Joe Biden is saying he's going to tell the American people what he'll do after Judge Barrett is confirmed in a week or so, even though millions of Americans are voting right now. Well, to borrow a phrase, come on, man. Joe, the American people deserve a straight answer. When you're running for the highest office in the land, you got to say whether you're going to respect the highest court in the land. Am I right? I mean, we all know the answer, right? I mean, I like to say I was born in the morning, but not yesterday morning. I mean, they're not answering the question because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to pack the court with liberal activist judges if they win this election. But we're not going to let it happen. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. We're going to stand for the Constitution and an independent judiciary for generations to come. So we've stood for the rule of law, prosperity, and our security. And President Donald Trump has stood every day with the men and women who serve on the thin blue line of law enforcement, and we always will. President Trump and I know what you know. The men and women who serve in law enforcement are some of the best people in this country. You know, when I was growing up in a small town in Indiana, we used to go back to my grandparents' home in Chicago. Me and my 3 brothers, when we were young, would stand in my grandparents' living room as my uncle had come out dressed for work. My uncle was in the Chicago Police Department for 25 years. He'd walk out in that uniform with that badge and that sidearm. My brothers and I just look up in awe. All my heroes wear uniforms. Every man and woman that puts on that uniform every single day, they decide every day to count our lives as more important than their own. And those who serve in law enforcement deserve the respect of every American every single day. Can we just hear it for the law enforcement officers who are here with us today? Thank you for your service. Now, the President and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. It's enshrined in the Constitution. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Burning businesses is not free speech. I was in Minneapolis just a few short weeks ago. I met an incredible African-American woman named Flora Westbrook. Flora started her salon 35 years ago in downtown Minneapolis. It became a staple of the community. But she told me of that week, just a few days after the killing of George Floyd, how she watched in horror as the rioters and protesters came closer and closer and closer to her business until the Friday night when they burned it to the ground. I stood there with Flora, looking at the ashes of her dreams. And I told her, we're going to rebuild Flora, bigger and better than ever before. And we're going to have safe streets in Minneapolis and in every city in this country for every American of every race and creed and color. So help us God. Now, for months, all summer long, remember, all Joe Biden talked about was peaceful protesters, as people literally watched businesses like Flora's burn to the ground in our major cities. I mean, I think you all know Joe Biden would double down on the policies that have led to violence in our cities. When you start to diminish support for those who protect and serve, you only embolden those who would do harm to our families and our communities. Now, Joe Biden explains it all by saying that, in his words, America is systemically racist, and that Joe Biden thinks that police have a, quote, implicit bias against minorities. When Joe Biden was asked if he'd support cutting funding for law enforcement, he replied, yes, absolutely. And his running mate, Kamala Harris, said we need to reimagine law enforcement, and she recently praised the mayor of Los Angeles for cutting $150 million from the LAPD. Well, let me make you a promise. With 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House, we're going to back the blue. We're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever. We're going to have law and order, men and women, in every city and every town in this country. So we've stood for the rule of law, for law and order. And this president also stood for the religious freedom of every American of every faith every single day. I don't have to tell all you here in New England, this nation was founded by people who came here to embrace freedom. And that first freedom was the freedom of religion. But when Joe Biden was vice president, we saw a steady assault on the religious liberty of Americans. We did, truthfully. I mean, under the last administration, after they passed Obamacare with its mandates, believe it or not, Joe Biden was vice president, they hauled a group of nuns into federal court to order them to compromise their faith to live under the strictures of Obamacare. But when President Trump came into office, we ended the assault on the Little Sisters of the Poor, and the Supreme Court just voted by 7-2 to make it permanent. People of faith have no greater champion than President Donald Trump. It's true. And finally, when you speak about our values, the timeless ideals of this country, I couldn't be more proud to be vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I mean, Maine deserves to know Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support abortion on demand, support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. They're calling for historic increases in funding to the largest abortion provider in America, and they're calling for a reinstatement of policies that promote abortion around the world. President Trump, by contrast, when we took office, he reinstated the Mexico City policy that prevented taxpayer dollars from ever being used to promote abortion around the world. And President Trump signed legislation to allow states to defund Planned Parenthood. President Donald Trump is the most pro-life president in American history. I mean, the truth is, in our first 3 years, we accomplished so much. Rebuilt our military, revived our economy. We stood for law and orders, liberties, and life. And let me say, none of that would have been possible without Republican majorities in the Congress. That's why right after you re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years, we need Northern Maine to send Dale Crafts to a new Republican majority in the House of Representatives and retire Nancy Pelosi once and for all. I mean, when you look at what we were able to accomplish with the Republican House and Senate, only one way you can describe it. In 3 short years, we made America great again. We did. And then the coronavirus struck our nation from China. But I'm here to tell you, before the first case of community transmission occurred in this country, President Trump did what no American president had ever done before. He suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Joe Biden called that hysterical. He criticized the president's move as xenophobic and said that it would actually make things worse. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force for these last 8 months, President Donald Trump's action suspending travel from China saved untold American lives and bought us time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. It's true. We reinvented testing. We saw to the production and the manufacture of literally billions of medical supplies. And with a partnership with companies like Puritan Medical Products, we ramped up production. That company's going to be creating 60 million swabs a month. We've done 120 million tests, and we just sent 100 million tests to school nurses and school administrators around America to get our schools open and to keep them open safely. And as we've worked every day to make sure our incredible doctors and nurses and caregivers have the supplies and support they need to give any American impacted by the coronavirus the support and the health care we'd want a family member to have. All along the way, we've been developing incredible medicines called therapeutics that have literally been saving lives every single day. And we're very confident that before the end of this year, we will have the first safe and effective coronavirus vaccine with millions of doses to distribute across this country. It's never been done before. And as the President announced this last weekend, CVS and Walgreens are going to partner with the federal government as soon as those vaccines are available to distribute them to seniors in nursing homes free of charge all across America. So we're going to keep making sure our doctors and nurses have what they need. We're going to keep protecting the vulnerable and saving lives. And where Joe Biden is talking about shutting down our economy, under President Donald Trump, we're opening up America again. It's amazing to think, after losing 22 million jobs at the height of this pandemic, because of the strong foundation that President Trump poured with your support in our first 3 years, and because of the unprecedented recovery and relief aid to families and businesses, we've already seen 11.5 million Americans go back to work, including 49,000 people right here in the state of Maine. So we're opening up America again. And there's a booming recovery that's already begun. The truth is, when you look at their agenda on the other side, where they're even talking about shutting down the economy again in the future, where they're talking about tearing down our institutions with things like court packing, stifling our economy with more taxes and more regulations, passing their own version of the Green New Deal. I got to tell you, it's clear. When you look at their agenda, you can tell. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. Joe Biden said that democracy's on the ballot on November 3rd. Well, I think our economic recovery is on the ballot. I think law and order are on the ballot. But I also believe that there are things much more foundational to this country that are on the ballot as well. In this election, it's not going to be so much whether America ends up more Republican or more Democrat, more red or more blue, more liberal or more conservative. I think the choice in this election is whether America remains America. It's whether we're going to let Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the Democratic Party, and the radical left take our nation down a leftward path of more taxes and less freedom, more government mandates, stifling our economy, walking away from the cherished ideals and values that have always made this country great. Honestly, in my heart, men and women, I think it's a choice between freedom and socialism. We're heading to a boundless future built on the principles of American freedom. Their policies would set us on an inexorable path of socialism and decline. So for our freedom and for all the ideals that have always made this country great and will make her greater than ever before, we need to decide right here and right now that Joe Biden will never be president of the United States. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. It's on, Maine. It's time. And we got 15 days to go. And northern Maine looms large. You were there for this president and our team in 2016. And we know northern Maine's going to be there again on November 3rd, 2020. Because, you know, 4 years ago, it was about a man who was articulating a vision and a leadership that could make America great again. And now there's a record of leadership that saw us create the most prosperous economy in history, the strongest military we have ever had, who strengthened the foundation of the rule of law and our constitutional ideals. And saw our nation through one of the most challenging years that any of us can recall. I got to tell you, I didn't know the president very well before he called me up and asked me to join this ticket 4 years ago. But I said yes in a heartbeat because I knew that he had the leadership and the vision to turn this country around. I'll never forget the night that he called me. Paul, I was at the governor's residence in Indiana. My family and I had prayed all the way through it. We'd been tipped off that we were going to get a phone call and asked to join the ticket. My wife was standing next to me, 11 o'clock at night. The phone rang, and I picked it up. I heard that familiar voice over the phone line. And he said, "Mike, it's going to be great." And you know what? Against unrelenting opposition, it's been great every single day for the last 4 years. Because I can tell you, in every single day in that campaign, that historic victory, in every day since, as the Democrats in Washington have thrown everything at this president but the kitchen sink, and their allies in the media have repeated every false accusation they could find against our president. I've seen him when the cameras are off, and I can tell all of you here in Maine. There's not a day gone by that President Donald Trump hasn't gotten up and fought to keep the promises that he made to the people of this state. Now it's our turn to fight for him. It's on. We need to bring it. So I got a couple things I want to ask you to do. over the next 15 days, if you're of a mind, and then I'm going to jump on a plane and go to Pennsylvania. First thing we need you to do, for all that we've done, all that we can yet do for this nation, is vote, Maine. Vote to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. I mean, I'm told you can do absentee in-person voting here in Maine, so, I mean, if you don't have plans the rest of the day, once we're done here, if you're from Herman, just go down to 333 Billings Road. They're open till 4. Vote to re-elect your president. Vote for Dale Crafts. And remember, friends, don't let friends vote alone. Bring a family member, bring a neighbor, bring a coworker. And so after you vote with a friend, in all that remains between now and when the polls close on Election Day, I want you to go tell somebody. You know, when I think back on that election in 2016, when all the pundits and all the pollsters were writing us off, I can tell you, I never doubted that America was going to vote for President Donald Trump. Because I was out with all of you. I mean, literally, I was traveling with him some days where I'd see the tens of thousands of people that would come out for him, and when they'd send me out, I'd literally see the hundreds of people that would come out for me. But it was all the same. I could see a determination of people from every walk of life who had that confidence that your former governor has exuded every day of his life. That American confidence that no matter what life deals with, we can always come back stronger and bigger than ever before. I saw it. I saw that confidence, and I knew people were talking to each other. So when you leave here, I want you to challenge you. I want you to go see your neighbors and friends that worship at work. Say, I was over at Dysert's. I ran into Mike. He flew all the way up here to make sure we knew about everything that we'd accomplished, everything you're not hearing on most of your major cable television stations, everything we've accomplished for this country and what we can do with 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. There's nothing more powerful than when someone who knows you hears from you about an issue that you think is important to them, to this community, to this state, and this nation. So reach out and let your voice be heard. So finally, let me just also say, you know, in these challenging times in the life of our nation, where we continue to deal with the impact of a global pandemic, where we seem to be more divided now than any time in my lifetime, I will tell you that after traveling this country for the last 4 years, I'm convinced that there will always be more that unites us in these United States of America than could ever divide us. And chief among those things is faith. I mean, when the President and I are traveling around, the sweetest words we ever hear is when someone will look at us across a rope line or backstage and say, I'm praying for you. And you know when people mean it. And so let me just say to each one of you, in all that remains between now and Election Day, if you're of a mind to do like Karen and I do, to bow the head and bend the knee, this would be a good time to do it too. And when you pray, pray with confidence. Confidence in those ancient words that Americans have clung to in much more challenging times than we could possibly imagine. That if his people who are called by his name will humble themselves and pray and turn, he'll do like he's always done in the long and storied history of this great nation. He'll hear from heaven and he'll heal this land. This one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So pray for America. Pray for all the American people. It'll make a difference, man. So I thank you for coming out today. I really do. It's humbling for me to see so many people come out on a Monday morning, taking time away from family and work. I can't wait to get on the plane and give them a call. Thank you. I want to tell you, it's been the greatest privilege of my life to be your vice president. I want to thank the people of Northern Maine for giving my family and me the opportunity, but I want to be your vice president for 4 more years. You know, the motto of the state of Maine is I lead. And in this bicentennial year of the Pine Tree State, we need Northern Maine to lead. We need Northern Maine to lead us to a future of freedom, a future of patriotism, a future of honoring everything that the American flag stands for and always will. We need Northern Maine to lead the way to 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. And we know you will. And I leave here today with renewed confidence that if all of us do all that we need to do in the next 15 days to vote with a friend, tell your neighbors the difference this president's leadership has made and will keep making. I just know we're going to have a great victory. All across Maine and all across America. We're going to make Maine and America stronger than ever before. We're going to make Maine and America more prosperous than ever before. We're going to make Maine and America more united than ever before. And the best days for Maine and America are yet to come. And with Dale Crafts and a new Republican majority in the House of Representatives, with a renewed majority in the United States Senate, with President Donald Trump in the White House for 4 more years, and with God's help, we're going to make America great again. Again. Thank you all very much. God bless you. God bless America. Let's go get it done.
Pay